I was doing the dishes when I heard the knocking. 3 sharp, authoritative raps on the door. I dried my hands on my apron and walked to the entrance. Carol was playing on the living room floor, building towers with colorful blocks. FBI. Open up. My heart stopped for a second. I turned the lock with trembling fingers. 2 men in dark suits stared at me with serious expressions. A golden badge glinted against the dark fabric. Mrs. Sarah Jenkins? Yes, that's me. You are under arrest for tax fraud and money laundering. The words echoed in the hallway like gunshots. My vision blurred. My legs went weak. It felt as if the floor had disappeared from under my feet. There must be a mistake. I work at a notary's office. I'm just a clerk. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in a court of law. Carol toddled over, grabbing my leg. Her brown eyes looked at me, confused. She didn't understand why Mommy was crying. She didn't understand why strange men had come into our house. I need to call someone. My daughter. Child Protective Services have been notified. Someone will be here to pick her up. My world fell apart. 6 years of raising Carol alone. 6 years of honest work, of bills paid with sacrifice. And now this. Cold handcuffs snapped around my wrists. The metal burned against my skin. Carol started to cry. A loud, desperate wail. I stretched out my arms, but I couldn't reach her. The handcuffs prevented me from consoling her. From telling her everything would be okay. Because I didn't know if it would be. Mommy will be back soon, my love. Mommy will be back soon. A lie. I didn't know when I would return. If I would return. The social worker arrived minutes later. A thin woman with glasses and a briefcase under her arm. She spoke to Carol in a soft, but professional tone. Carol screamed my name. Her small hands reached out toward me as I was led away. The echo of her desperation followed me to the police car. To this day, that sound still haunts me. The detective showed me documents I had never seen. Signatures that looked like mine, but that I didn't remember making. Bank accounts in my name with millions of dollars in transactions. It was impossible. It was a nightmare. Do you recognize these signatures? They look like mine, but I don't. And these accounts? This money? I've never seen any of this. He looked at me with contempt. As if I were just another criminal trying to play the victim. My story didn't matter. The documents were there, with my name, my signature. Then I remembered. Jack. My ex-husband had shown up 3 weeks ago. He asked for my help with some paperwork. Said he needed to sort out an inheritance, but he didn't understand the documents. I helped him. I signed some papers as a witness. It was my ex-husband. He asked me to sign documents. Of course. It's always the ex-husband's fault. The detective didn't believe me. No one believed me. Jack had disappeared. Vanished into thin air, leaving only a paper trail that led directly to me. I was the only one with my name on the documents. The only one they could arrest. The cell was small, cold, with gray concrete walls. 2 iron beds, a toilet in the corner, a small window with bars. My cellmate was a woman in her 40s, with graying hair and tired eyes. First time? Yes. It'll pass. Everything passes in here. But I didn't want it to pass. I wanted to get out. I wanted to hug Carol, take her home, make dinner while she told me about her day at school. I wanted my life back. My simple, honest, difficult, but mine, life. The nights were the worst.
Just to make sure you keep getting our stories, subscribe to the channel, give this one a like too, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're listening from.
I would lie on the hard bed, staring at the cracked ceiling. I imagined Carol alone, scared, wondering when Mommy would be back. Was she crying? Was she eating properly? I wrote dozens of letters to lawyers. Most of them didn't even reply. The ones who did asked for absurd retainers. $50,000, $100,000 up front. Money I never had. That I would never have. My clerk's salary barely covered rent and Carol's school. I tried to call my sister, Amy. The phone rang and rang, but no one answered. On the second try, a dry voice said the number was no longer in service. She had changed her number. She didn't want to talk to me. She didn't want to be associated with a criminal. My parents were dead. I had no close friends. The isolation was complete, suffocating. It was as if I had been erased from the world. As if I had never existed. The public defender assigned to me was young, overworked, and uninterested. She showed up once a month, always in a hurry. She would flip through the documents quickly, mumble some technical phrases, and leave. I was just another case in the pile of folders on her desk. The evidence is pretty solid. It's going to be tough to prove your innocence. But I am innocent. They all say that. Her answer cut me like a knife. I realized I was alone. Completely alone. No one would fight for me. No one would believe me. I was guilty until proven innocent. And with no money, no resources, no support, how could I prove it? The days dragged on, all the same. I'd get up at 6, eat a tasteless breakfast, spend 2 hours in the yard, have lunch, rest, have dinner, go to sleep. The routine numbed me, but it also kept me functioning. It was a survival mechanism. The other inmates looked at me with curiosity. Financial crime wasn't common there. Most were in for drug trafficking, theft, or crimes of passion. I was different. Quiet, educated, scared. Some thought I was acting superior. Others pitted me. You don't look like a criminal. That's what I hear the most in here. An older woman, in for wire fraud, became my informal protector. She taught me the unwritten rules of the place. How to behave, who to talk to, who not to talk to. She understood my situation better than anyone. The system doesn't forgive the poor. Rich people buy lawyers, poor people get screwed. Her words were harsh, but true. I saw it every day. Women who had committed minor crimes serving long sentences. While on the news, politicians accused of stealing millions remained free in their mansions. I started writing a journal for Carol. Pages and pages telling her about my days, my thoughts, my dreams. I talked about how small she was, how she took her first steps, how she called me Ma before she could say Mommy. One day you'll read this and understand that I never abandoned you. That I fought to come back every day. I wrote at night, in the faint light of the hallway lamp. The words were my only connection to her. My only way to continue being her mother, even from a distance. Even behind bars. The first Christmas was devastating. I heard children laughing on TV, saw commercials for toys, imagined Carol opening presents far away from me. Did she still think of me? Did she still love me? I cried until I had no more tears. Then I got up, washed my face, and kept going. Because to give up meant to give up on Carol. And that I would never do. She was my reason for living. My reason for fighting. The appeal was denied. The second appeal too. My resources were dwindling one by one. My public defender barely hid her discouragement. The evidence was too solid. The signatures, too perfect. The system had decided, I was guilty. 2 years passed like a gray eternity. 2 years away from Carol. 2 years of guilt, anger, despair. 2 years of a life suspended, interrupted, almost lost. I was 32 when I went in. I would come out at 34. If I came out. It was on a Tuesday morning that everything changed. The guard came to call me. There was a lawyer who wanted to speak to me. It wasn't my public defender. It was someone I had never seen before. An elegant woman in a navy blue suit, with a leather briefcase and expensive shoes. I'm Dr. Jane Morales. I'm here to inform you that your bail has been paid. The words didn't make sense immediately. Bail? What bail? No one had mentioned bail. And even if they had, who would have paid it? I don't understand. $300,000 was deposited this morning. In cash. You are free to go. My brain short-circuited. $300,000. It was more money than I would see in a lifetime. Who had that kind of money? Who cared enough about me to spend such an absurd amount? Who paid? I'm not at liberty to say. It was a condition of the payment. But I need to know. I need to thank them. The person prefers to remain anonymous. I felt like I was dreaming. Or going crazy. 2 years in jail, abandoned by everyone, and suddenly a millionaire guardian angel decided to save me? It didn't make sense. None of it made sense. I signed papers I could barely read. My hands were shaking uncontrollably. Freedom was right there, within my grasp, but I couldn't believe it. Was it real? Was it possible? Or was it just another cruel dream? I gathered my few belongings. Clothes that no longer fit me, the journal for Carol, some letters I never sent. 2 years of my life fit in a plastic bag. My life had shrunk so much it fit in a plastic bag. The prison door opened with a heavy creak. On the other side, the world kept turning. Cars drove by on the street, people walked on the sidewalks, life went on its normal course. I had been standing still in time, but the world hadn't. I expected someone to be waiting for me. A crowd, photographers, at least one familiar person. But there was no one. Just the empty street, the strong midday sun, and my own shadow on the hot asphalt. The lawyer handed me a card with an address and a key. There's an apartment rented for 6 months. And this. She placed a thick envelope in my hands. Money. A lot of money. So you can get back on your feet. She got in her car and drove away. I was left alone on the sidewalk, holding a key to a place I didn't know and money from someone I didn't know. Free, but more lost than ever. With more questions than answers. And one single certainty, I had to find Carol. Whatever the cost. The apartment was small, but clean. 1 bedroom, a living room, kitchen, bathroom. Furnished with the basics, a bed, table, chairs, stove, refrigerator. Everything was new, simple, functional. As if someone had prepared everything, thinking exactly of what I would need. There was food in the fridge. Cleaning supplies in the cabinet. Clothes my size in the closet. Every detail was perfect. Whoever my benefactor was, they knew me well. Or had investigated me thoroughly. I took my first real shower in 2 years. Hot water, scented soap, shampoo that smelled like flowers. I cried under the shower. From relief, from gratitude, from fear. Because being free was scary too. I had gotten used to prison. I knew the rules, the schedule, what to expect. Out here, everything was uncertain. I put on clean clothes and looked at myself in the mirror. I was thinner, older, with wrinkles that weren't there before. My eyes had a new hardness, a distrust I couldn't hide. Prison had changed me inside and out. My first outing was to the supermarket. The colors, the sounds, the choices overwhelmed me. I stood in the cereal aisle for 10 minutes, just looking at the colorful boxes. I had forgotten what it was like to have options. People looked at me strangely. Did they know who I was? Had my face been in the papers? I quickened my pace, bought only the essentials, and went back home. Home. It was strange to call that place home. That night, I called Child Protective Services. Carol was with a foster family. They couldn't give me the address, but they could schedule a supervised visit. My heart raced. I would see my daughter tomorrow. After 2 years, I would finally see her. I arrived at the location an hour before the scheduled time. It was a public building, with yellowish walls and a smell of disinfectant. The social worker greeted me with a professional smile. She explained the rules: a 1-hour visit, always supervised, no prolonged physical contact. Carol walked in the door holding the hand of an unknown woman. She was bigger, taller, with longer hair. She wore nice clothes, new shoes. She looked healthy, well cared for. But her eyes didn't shine like they used to. "Hi, Carol." "Hi." Her voice was different. More mature, more cautious. She looked at me as if I were a stranger. And maybe I was. 2 years in a child's life is an eternity. I had missed precious moments, important milestones. I tried to talk to her, to ask questions about school, friends, favorite games. She answered in monosyllables, politely, but distantly. The spontaneity was gone. The trust was gone. A child's unconditional love for her mother was gone. The hour passed slowly, painfully. Every minute showed me how much our connection had been lost. How I had become a stranger in my own daughter's life. When it was time to leave, Carol didn't protest. She didn't cry. She just waved and walked away. I walked the streets without a destination, crying openly. I had gained my freedom, but lost my daughter. I was physically free, but emotionally trapped. The guilt, anger, and sadness weighed more than any handcuffs. I needed a job. I needed to keep busy, to distract myself, to rebuild my life. I looked for jobs, but my criminal record preceded me. No one wanted to hire someone convicted of financial crimes. Even though I was innocent, the stigma followed me. I found work as a janitor in a small commercial building. The salary was low, but the boss didn't ask too many questions. I worked at night, after normal business hours. I cleaned offices, bathrooms, empty hallways. It was a humble start, but it was a start. The building had only 4 floors. Small businesses, an accountant, a dentist, a law firm, a consulting firm. Employees would arrive in the morning and leave in the late afternoon. I would arrive after they were gone. We were ships that passed in the night. It was on one of those nights that I met him. I was cleaning the 3rd floor when I heard footsteps in the hallway. It was strange. The building was supposed to be empty. I grabbed my bucket and rag, ready to hide. Maybe it was a security guard on rounds. "Good evening." The voice was soft, polite. I turned and saw a man in his 40s, in a dark suit, with a briefcase in his hand. Tall, with slightly graying hair and kind eyes. He smiled discreetly, without a rush. "Good evening. Sorry, I didn't know anyone was here." "No need to apologize. I'm Adam. I work on the 4th floor. Sarah. I'm the new janitor." He nodded politely and continued toward the elevator. He stopped before getting in and turned around. "What time do you get off work?" "Around 3 in the morning. Be careful going out. This neighborhood isn't very safe late at night." He left before I could reply. I stood there, bucket in hand, thinking about the unexpected kindness. How long had it been since someone showed concern for me? How long had it been since someone treated me like a normal person? The following week, he showed up again. Always polite, always kind, always concerned about my safety. I found out he was a businessman, the owner of a consulting firm. He often worked late. Divorced, with no children. "Why do you work so late?" I asked him on one of those occasions. "It's a habit." "And you? Why did you choose to work at night?" I couldn't tell him the truth. That I worked at night because it was easier to hide my past in the darkness. That I preferred solitude to judgmental looks. That I wasn't ready to face the world in the light of day. "The pay is better," I lied. He seemed to understand there was more to the story, but he didn't press. He was discreet like that. Respectful. He never asked too many questions, never meddled. He was just there, a constant and comforting presence. Over time, our conversations grew longer. He would tell me about his projects, I would talk about my work. I avoided mentioning Carol, my past, my problems. It was good to have someone who saw me only as Sarah, the janitor. Not as Sarah, the ex-convict. One night, he came down with a cup of coffee. "I thought you might want some. It's cold tonight." The coffee was perfect. Not too strong, not too weak. With one sugar cube, exactly how I liked it. How did he know? Had he watched me on other occasions having coffee in the break room? "Thank you. I really needed this." "You're welcome. We all need a little kindness sometimes." His words had a different weight. As if he knew from his own experience what it was like to need kindness. What it was like to be alone in the world. There was a discreet sadness in his eyes that I recognized. It was the same one I saw in the mirror. Adam started to show up more frequently. Always with an excuse. He had forgotten something in the office, he needed to pick up a document, he had an important call. But I realized they were planned encounters. He wanted my company as much as I wanted his. One night, he offered me a better job. His company needed someone for general office work during the day. Cleaning, organizing, answering the phone when necessary. The salary was 3 times what I made as a night janitor. "Why me?" I asked, suspicious. "Because you're trustworthy, punctual, careful with your work. But you barely know me." "I know enough." There was something in his tone that made me uneasy. As if he knew more about me than I had told him. As if our friendship wasn't as casual as it seemed. But I needed the job. I needed the money. I needed to come out of the shadows of the night. I accepted the offer. On the first day, I arrived nervous, insecure. It was my first daytime job since prison. The first time I would have to interact with people for hours. The first time I would have to pretend to be normal. Adam's office was elegant, but not ostentatious. A dark wood desk, a bookshelf full of books, discreet paintings. There was a photo on his desk, a boy about 8 years old, smiling widely. Brown hair, bright eyes. "Your son?" I asked. Adam picked up the photo, looked at it for a few seconds in silence, then put it away in the drawer. He was. The pain in his voice was unmistakable. I realized I had touched a deep wound. I wanted to apologize, to explain, but he had already changed the subject. He showed me my duties, the hours, the routines. Professional, efficient, distant. The days in the office were quiet. Adam received few clients. He spent most of his time on the phone or the computer. I organized documents, answered calls, kept everything clean and running. It was a respectable, dignified job. He treated me like an employee, but there were moments of kindness that went beyond professional courtesy. He would bring coffee from the corner shop on cold days. He would leave chocolates on my desk when I seemed sad. Small gestures that made a difference. One afternoon, while organizing some contracts, I found a folder with my name on it. Inside, there were copies of news articles about my case. Photos of me being arrested, sensational headlines, details of the investigation. My blood ran cold. Adam walked into the office at the exact moment I was closing the folder. Our eyes met. There was no way to hide that I had discovered it. No way to pretend that I didn't know that he knew. "You investigated me." "Yes." "Why?" "Because I needed to know who I was hiring." "And why did you hire me even after you knew?" Adam came closer, took the folder from my hand, and put it back in the file cabinet. His movements were calm, deliberate. As if he had been preparing for this conversation for a long time. "Because I believe in second chances. Or because you feel sorry for me." "I don't feel sorry. I feel something different." There was an intensity in his voice that scared me. A connection that went beyond professional sympathy. Something personal, intimate, disturbing. I wanted to ask what it was, but I didn't have the courage. Some answers are scarier than the questions themselves. That night, at home, I thought a lot about Adam. About his gestures of kindness, his careful words, his constant presence. About the photo of the boy he had hidden. About the folder with my name. There were connections I wasn't seeing. I started to observe him more closely. I noticed that he never received personal calls. He never mentioned friends, family, or social engagements. He worked long hours, as if he had nowhere else to go. He ate lunch alone at his office desk. He was a lonely man, just like me. There were scars on his hands that he tried to hide. Small marks that looked old, but significant. When I asked about them, he deflected. He changed the subject with the same skill he used when we talked about the past. You notice pain in others when you carry your own pain. Adam was hiding some tragedy, just as I was hiding mine. We were 2 castaways who had found each other on the same desert island. Alone, but no longer completely alone. One day, I arrived early and found him asleep in the office armchair. Papers were scattered on the desk, a bottle of pills beside him, and a photo I hadn't seen before. The same child, but younger. A newborn, in the arms of a blonde woman. Adam woke up and saw me looking at the photo. This time, he didn't hide it. He just stayed there, vulnerable, waiting for my questions. But I didn't ask anything. Sometimes silence is kinder than words. He would have been 10 today, he finally said. What happened? Leukemia. At 3 years old. The pain in his voice was so deep it was almost physical. I understood then his kindness toward me, his discreet protection. I was another person who had lost a child. In different ways, but we both knew the emptiness a child leaves when they leave our lives. And your wife? She couldn't take it. She took her own life 2 years later. The silence that followed was heavy, laden with shared pain. Two adults who had lost their families, trying to rebuild some meaning in their lives. That's what connected us. Not pity, not sympathy. Mutual recognition. That day, our relationship changed. We were no longer boss and employee. We were survivors. Allies in a silent war against loneliness and despair. He took care of me, I took care of him. Without words, without promises. Just presence. Adam started to help me with practical matters. He recommended a lawyer to help me with the custody process for Carol. He paid for the consultations, saying it would be deducted from my salary little by little. He knew I would never be able to pay it back, but he pretended it was just a loan. The lawyer, Dr. Michael Hayes, was efficient and optimistic. He said there was a real chance of me getting Carol's custody back. My criminal record complicated things, but I had a steady job, a stable home, and a proven income. It could work. The supervised visits continued. Carol was slowly opening up, starting to trust me again. She talked about school, friends, favorite games. There was still a barrier, a caution, but the ice was melting. The love between mother and daughter was being reborn. Adam never asked about Carol directly, but he knew when I came back from visits feeling sad. On those days, he would become even kinder. He would bring flowers to the office, put on soft music, create a peaceful atmosphere. He knew I needed peace to process my emotions. One afternoon, he called me in for a serious talk. We had to talk about my past, about the accusations, about my innocence or guilt. Not to judge me, but to understand better how to help me. I told him everything. About Jack, about the documents, about how I had been tricked. Adam listened without interrupting, without judging. When I finished, he was silent for long minutes. Then he said just one thing: I believe you. They were the most important words anyone had said to me since I got out of prison. Someone believed in me. Someone believed in my innocence. Someone believed my side of the story. I cried right there, in front of him, without trying to hide it. Adam got up, came to my chair, and placed a hand on my shoulder. A simple gesture, but full of meaning. It was protection, comfort, solidarity. It was the first time in years that someone had touched me with kindness. We're going to prove your innocence, he said. How? By finding your ex-husband. The idea scared me and filled me with hope at the same time. Jack had ruined my life and then disappeared. If we found him, if he confessed, I could be absolved. My name could be cleared. I could get my life back. But Jack was smart. He had planned everything carefully. He had vanished without a trace. How could two regular people like us find someone that professionals couldn't locate? I have contacts, Adam said. Private investigators. People who can help us. That must cost a lot of money. Leave that to me. Once again, Adam was willing to spend money I didn't have to help me. Once again, I wondered why. What had I done to deserve so much generosity? What did he gain by helping me? The investigators were discreet and efficient. In 2 weeks, they had information on Jack. He was living in Panama City, under a fake identity. He had a comfortable life with the money he had stolen. A big house, an imported car, a new wife. Seeing the photos of him filled me with anger. There was the man who had destroyed my life, living like a king on the proceeds of his crime. While I suffered in prison, he was enjoying sandy beaches. While I was losing my daughter, he was building a new family. We can turn him over to the authorities, Adam said. Will it help? Even if he's arrested, how can we prove I was tricked? Adam showed me other documents the investigators had discovered. Jack had done the same thing to other women. Always the same scheme: he would approach vulnerable ex-wives, ask for help with documents, and disappear, leaving them as the sole culprits. There were 5 documented cases. 5 women who had gone through the same thing as me. Some were still in prison. Others had been released, but with their lives destroyed. All of them innocent. All of them victims of the same man. This changes everything, Dr. Hayes said when he saw the evidence. With these documents, I can request a review of your sentence. The process would be long and bureaucratic, but there was real hope. For the first time in years, there was light at the end of the tunnel. I could be absolved. My name could be cleared. I could regain my dignity. Adam followed every step of the process. He was present at every hearing, even when I said he didn't need to be. He held my hand in the most difficult moments. He gave me strength when I wanted to give up. Why are you doing this? I asked after a particularly difficult hearing. Because you deserve it. But why do you care so much about me? Adam stopped walking. We were in front of the courthouse, people passing all around us. He looked at me in a way he never had before. There was something in his eyes that made me tremble. Because you make me feel alive again. The words hung in the air between us. They were not words of pity or charity. They were words of love. From someone who had found a reason to continue living. Just as I had found one in him. The kiss happened naturally. Soft, careful, full of pent-up tenderness. It wasn't wild passion. It was recognition. It was gratitude. It was two wounded souls healing each other. When we pulled apart, we were both crying. Not from sadness, but from relief. Relief from no longer being alone. Relief from having found someone who understood our pain. Someone who loved us despite our scars. From that day on, our relationship changed again. We were no longer just allies. We were partners. Adam took me out to dinner, we went to the movies, we walked in the park on Sundays. We were relearning how to be happy. Carol started asking about him during our visits. She said I seemed different, happier. She wanted to know who the man was who made me smile. I told her he was a special friend, someone who took care of me. Can he be my stepdad? Carol's question caught me off guard. She had accepted Adam before she even met him. She saw in him the possibility of having a complete family again. A father who would love and protect her. But there were practical matters. Adam and I were building something beautiful, but slowly. He didn't talk about the future, about marriage, about Carol becoming part of his life. I was afraid of putting pressure on him, of ruining what we had. The legal process was going well. The evidence against Jack was solid. Other victims had come forward to testify. The prosecutor had admitted that my case needed to be re-evaluated. Dr. Hayes was optimistic. He thought that in a few months I would be officially absolved. My criminal record would be wiped clean. I could regain not only my legal freedom, but my social dignity. Adam celebrated the news with me. We had dinner at an elegant restaurant, toasted with wine, and dreamed about the future. He talked about trips we could take, places he would like to show me. For the first time, he included Carol in his plans. When all this is over, you two can move in with me. Are you sure? Carol can be a handful. I'm looking forward to meeting that handful. His answer reassured me. Adam didn't see Carol as an obstacle or a complication. He saw her as a natural part of our life together. As the family he had lost and I was getting back. That night, we made love for the first time. It was delicate, respectful, full of true love. Not just two bodies meeting, but two souls recognizing each other. It was the first time in years that I felt completely like a woman again. Afterward, lying in each other's arms, Adam told me more about his son. How smart he was, how funny, how full of life. How the disease had come suddenly, stealing not just the child, but all hope of happiness. You gave me back my hope, he said. You gave me back my life, I replied. They were simple, but profound truths. We had saved each other. Not just from despair, but from loneliness. Not just from sadness, but from the certainty that we would never be happy again. The following months were the happiest of my adult life. I worked with Adam during the day, we had dinner together, we spent weekends exploring the city. He introduced me to museums, theaters, and restaurants I had never known. Carol was getting closer and closer to coming home. The custody process was almost complete. Soon, we would be a real family. Adam, me, and Carol. The family none of us expected to have, but that we all deserved. It was on one of those happy afternoons that everything changed. I was organizing some old files when I found a folder Adam had forgotten on his desk. Inside, there were documents from the hospital where Carol was born. Documents with dates that made me stop breathing. Adam's son had died on the same day Carol was born. In the same hospital. In the same maternity ward. The dates were identical, April 15, 2019. What a strange coincidence. What an impossible connection. I looked more closely at the documents. There were medical reports, birth certificates, payment receipts. All related to the birth of one child and the death of another. On the same day. In the same place. At the same time. My heart started to beat uncontrollably. There was something wrong with those dates. Something that didn't make sense. Why did Adam have documents from the hospital where Carol was born? Why did he keep papers about births and deaths from the same day? I remembered the photo he had hidden. The baby in the arms of the blonde woman. I tried to remember the child's face, the details I had quickly seen. There was something familiar about those features. Something that bothered me without my knowing why. I grabbed my purse and looked for my wallet. Inside, there was a photo of Carol as a newborn. The only photo I had from those first few days. I placed it side by side with the photo that was in Adam's folder. The world stopped. The two children were identical. Exactly identical. The same face, the same features, the same markings. They weren't just similar. They were the same child. The same Carol. My legs went weak. I sat down in the chair, trying to process what I was seeing. Adam had a photo of my daughter as a newborn. He had documents from the hospital where she was born. He said his son had died on the same day, at the same time. It couldn't be a coincidence. It couldn't be by chance. There was a connection I wasn't understanding. A truth that was hidden in these yellowed papers, in these faded photos. Adam arrived at the exact moment I was closing the folder. Our eyes met once again. But this time it was different. It wasn't about my criminal past. It was about something much deeper. Much more disturbing. "We need to talk," he said. "Yes. We do." I closed the office early. We went to his apartment in silence. During the entire drive, my mind tried to form theories, explanations, excuses. But deep down, I already knew. I already felt the truth in my stomach, like a heavy stone. Adam made coffee for both of us. His hands were shaking slightly. He knew the time had come to tell me something he had kept for years. Something that would change everything between us. Maybe forever. "What do you want to know?" he asked. "The truth. The whole truth." He sighed deeply, as if he were preparing to confess a crime. And maybe he was. Maybe that's exactly what was about to happen. My wife couldn't have children. We tried for years, treatments, surgeries, nothing worked. She was desperate, obsessed with motherhood. He stopped to take a sip of coffee. His hands were still shaking.
Since you've been here with me all this time, it means you enjoy our story. So, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next ones. Give this one a like, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from.
He continued without looking me in the eyes. "When she found out you were pregnant, in the same hospital where she was having treatment, she had an idea. A terrible idea." "What idea?" "She paid the nurse to swap the babies. Your son for a baby who had died during childbirth." The words dropped like bombs. One after another, destroying everything I thought I knew about my life. About my daughter. About the man I loved. "Carol isn't my biological daughter?" "No. Your son was taken by my wife. She told me she had adopted him legally." I believed her. I only found out the truth years later, when she confessed before she died. The world spun. It literally spun around me. I had raised someone else's daughter for 6 years. My real child was being raised by a woman who had stolen my baby. And the man I loved knew everything. "You knew. All this time, you knew." "I only found out 2 years ago. When my wife confessed. And you didn't tell me. You let me suffer, thinking Carol was my daughter." "She is your daughter. You raised her, loved her, took care of her." I got up from the chair with a sudden movement. Anger took over me completely. Anger at Adam, at his wife, at the nurse, at the system, at the world. Anger at having been tricked again. Where is my son? With an adoptive family. They don't know the truth. "What's his name?" "Josh. He's 10 years old now." "Josh." My son's name was Josh and he was 10 years old. He was the child in the photo Adam kept on his desk. He was my baby that I had never met. My flesh and blood, my DNA. "Is that why you helped me?" "Guilt. At first, yes. Then it became love." "Liar." "It was guilt the whole time." Adam tried to approach me, but I stepped back. I couldn't look at him without feeling disgust. Disgust at the lie, the manipulation, the charade our relationship had become. "You used me to clean your conscience." "No. I love you. You love your guilt. Not me." I left without looking back. I grabbed my things from the office and never returned. I didn't want to see Adam. I didn't want to hear his excuses. I didn't want his explanations about love and guilt and second chances. I spent days alone at home, trying to process the truth. Carol wasn't my biological daughter, but she was my daughter in my heart. I had a son I didn't know, being raised by strangers. Adam had bought my freedom out of guilt, not love. My entire world had collapsed again. But this time was different. This time, I knew the truth. And the truth, however painful, gave me power. The power to decide what to do next. I looked for Dr. Hayes. I told him everything I had discovered. He was shocked, but he said we could use that information to strengthen my case. If we proved the baby swap, it would be more evidence of corruption in the system. "But that means you'll lose Carol legally." "I know. And you're not going to try to get your biological son back?" That was the question that haunted me. Josh had been with a family for 10 years. He was loved, cared for, happy. I couldn't just show up and destroy his life. Just as I couldn't abandon Carol just because we didn't share genes. Adam looked for me several times. He called, sent messages, showed up at my door. I didn't answer. I didn't want to hear his words of love tainted by the lie. I didn't want his presence contaminated by guilt. On one of those visits, he left a letter under my door. It said he understood my anger. That he deserved my hatred. But that his love for me was real. That he would help me find Josh if I wanted. That he would do anything to see me happy. I tore up the letter without finishing it. I didn't want his help. I didn't want his resources. I didn't want anything that came from him. I wanted to rebuild my life alone, with truth as the foundation, not with gilded lies. The absolution came a few weeks later. Jack had been arrested in Panama City. He confessed to all the crimes, including using me as a front. My criminal record was wiped clean. Officially, I was innocent. I should have been happy. It was what I had dreamed of for years. But the happiness was stained by the discovery about Adam. By the truth about Carol and Josh. By the complexity of a situation that had no perfect solution. Dr. Hayes advised me about my legal rights. I could sue the hospital, the nurse, demand the return of my biological son. Or I could leave things as they were. It was my choice. Only mine. I visited Carol at the foster care center. She was happy with the news of my absolution. She talked excitedly about coming home, about our future plans. I listened to her, smiling, but with a broken heart. How do you tell an 8-year-old child that her entire life was based on a lie? How do you explain that the mother she knew wasn't her biological mother? How do you talk about a brother she never knew? I decided not to tell her. Not yet, at least. Carol was my daughter in every way that mattered. I had raised her, loved her, protected her. She loved me as her mother. Genes didn't change that. They didn't need to change that. Carol's custody was officially transferred to me. We left the foster care center holding hands, ready to start our new life. She was excited, talking nonstop about what we would do at home. "Where's Adam?" she asked on the way. "He had to go away for work. Will he come back?" "I don't know, honey. I don't know." Carol noticed my sadness, even though I tried to hide it. At the apartment, she hugged me tightly and said we didn't need Adam to be happy. That the two of us were a complete family. Her words made me cry. It was true. We were a family. Small, wounded, complicated, but real. And maybe that was enough. Maybe we didn't need anything else but each other. But at night, when Carol was asleep, I thought about Josh. Where was he? Was he happy? Did he know he was adopted? Did he sometimes dream about the biological mother he never met? Did he feel, instinctively, that there was something missing in his life? I hired a private investigator to find out about him. Not to interfere, just to know. I wanted to be sure he was okay, that he was loved, that he didn't need me. That I could live in peace knowing I had made the right decision. The report arrived 2 weeks later. Josh lived with an upper-middle-class family. Loving adoptive parents, an older sister, a big house with a yard. He attended a private school, played soccer, had friends. He was a normal, happy, well-adjusted child. Seeing his photos broke my heart. He looked just like me as a child. The same eyes, the same smile, the same gestures. He was my son, no doubt about it. My flesh and blood. But he was also other people's son. People who loved him just as much as I did. I put the photos in a box along with the letters I had written to Carol in prison. They were memories of 2 children. One I had raised thinking she was mine. The other I had lost without even knowing he existed. Carol and I adapted to our new routine. She went back to school, made new friends, and regained her lost joy. I got a job at an accounting firm. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. It was a new beginning. We avoided the neighborhood where Adam's office was located. Carol would ask about him sometimes, but she stopped insisting when she realized the subject made me sad. She was smart like that. She protected my feelings even as a child. Months passed. Life returned to normal. Carol grew, I worked, we built new memories over the old ones. We weren't completely happy, but we were functional. And sometimes that's enough. It was on a Saturday afternoon that everything changed for the last time. We were at the park when I saw a boy playing soccer with his dad. Something caught my attention. The way he ran, how he kicked the ball, how he smiled. I knew those movements. I knew that smile. It was Josh. My son was there, just a few feet away. Playing, laughing, living his normal life. Unaware that his biological mother was watching him from a park bench, with a racing heart. I wanted to run to him. To hug him, to smell him, to get back 10 lost years in a few seconds. I wanted to scream that I was his mother, that I had always loved him, that I had never forgotten him. I wanted to destroy his perfect life to rebuild mine. But I didn't do any of that. I stayed there, just watching. Seeing how much he was loved by his adoptive father. How he smiled genuinely. How he was a happy child, without trauma, without pain. And I understood that interfering would be pure selfishness. "Mom, why are you crying?" Carol had noticed my tears. She looked in the boy's direction, then at me. Her childlike, but perceptive, gaze captured something I was trying to hide. "It's him, isn't it? It's my brother." The question caught me off guard. Carol knew. Somehow, she had discovered or suspected the truth. Maybe she had overheard conversations, read documents, connected the dots. Children are more observant than we imagine. "How do you know?" "I heard you crying at night. Saying a name, Josh. And I saw the photos in your box." There was no way to lie anymore. Carol deserved the truth. The whole truth, no matter how complicated. I told her about the swap, about Adam, about the discovery. I spoke slowly, carefully, watching her reactions. Carol listened to me in silence. When I finished, she was thoughtful for a few minutes. Then she asked, "Does this change anything between us?" "Nothing. You are my daughter. You always will be. And he's my brother. He always will be." The simplicity of her child's logic moved me. For Carol, there were no complex ethical dilemmas. There was only love. Love for me, as a mother. Love for Josh, as a brother. Love that wasn't limited by social conventions or biology. Can we meet him? I don't know if that's a good idea. Why not? How do you explain to an 8-year-old child the legal, emotional, and family implications of a situation like that? How do you talk about rights, responsibilities, consequences? How do you say that sometimes love isn't enough? We decided to leave before Josh noticed us. But all the way back, Carol talked about him. How smart he must be, how they would love to play together, how cool it would be to have a real brother. That night, Carol slept with me. Lying in bed, she asked me if I missed Josh. If it hurt not having raised him. If I regretted anything. I answered honestly, I missed him, it hurt, but I didn't regret anything. Because if things had been different, I wouldn't have you. And I wouldn't have the best mom in the world. We slept hugging, mother and daughter by choice, not by chance. Family built on love, not on blood. United by life, not by genetics. It was enough. It had to be enough. A few days later, Adam showed up at Carol's school. She told me about it in detail that night. How different he looked, thinner, sadder. How he asked about me, if I was okay, if I needed anything. He said you were suffering because of me. What did you say? That you were fine. That we were happy on our own. That he didn't need to worry. Carol had protected me instinctively. She realized that Adam was causing me pain and she defended me. She was mature beyond her years, strong beyond her size. She was my daughter in every sense. But her words also made me think. Adam was suffering. Maybe as much as I was. Maybe his guilt was genuine. Maybe his love was real, even if born from a lie. Maybe I was being unfair by not giving him a chance to explain. I decided to meet him. Not to resume the relationship, but to have an adult conversation. To understand his motives, his choices, his feelings. To close that chapter of my life maturely. I arranged to meet him at a neutral coffee shop. He arrived on time, elegant as always, but with tired eyes. He had lost weight, aged. Guilt was taking its toll. The lie was eating him up inside. Thank you for agreeing to see me. We needed to talk. We ordered coffee and sat in silence for a few minutes. Two people who had loved each other, separated by the truth. Two wounded souls trying to figure out how to fix what had been broken. Will you ever forgive me? I don't know. Maybe. But I'll never forget. I don't expect you to forget. I just hope you understand. Adam told me his full version of the story. How he discovered the truth about the baby swap. How he confronted his wife before she died. How he was torn between revealing the truth and protecting Josh's happiness. I thought 1,000 times about telling you. But Josh was happy. You were in prison. Carol was being cared for. Revealing the truth would only cause more pain. So you decided to play God. I decided to try and repair the harm my family caused. There was logic in his arguments. There was love in his intentions. But there was also arrogance in his decisions. He had chosen my destiny without consulting me. He had decided what was best for me without giving me a voice. Why did you tell me now? Because I couldn't live with the lie anymore. Because I truly love you. To love is to trust. You never trusted me. Adam had no answer to that. He knew I was right. Love without trust is not love. It's possession. It's control. It's manipulation disguised as protection. We talked for 2 hours. He told me about Josh, about his adoptive family, about how he had watched the boy grow from afar. How he felt responsible for his happiness. How he feared that the truth would destroy his life. In the end, we reached an agreement. Adam would stop contacting me. I would not reveal the truth about Josh without talking to him first. We would both respect each other's choices. It was a practical agreement, not an emotional one. We left the coffee shop without a hug, without a kiss, without promises of a future. It was the official end of our relationship. The end of a beautiful story that had been built on a rotten foundation. Carol noticed my sadness when I got home. She didn't ask for details, she just hugged me tightly. Her presence was comforting, healing. It was a reminder that I wasn't alone. That I had a family, small but real. That night, I wrote a letter to Josh. Not to deliver, just to organize my thoughts. I told him about my love for him, about how I thought of him every day, about how I would respect his current life. It was a goodbye letter to a son I never knew. Life continued its normal course. Carol grew another year, I got a promotion at work, we moved to a bigger apartment. We built our routine, our traditions, our possible happiness. Sometimes, we would walk by the park where we saw Josh. Carol would always look around, searching for her brother. We never saw him again, but her hope moved me. It was pure, innocent, optimistic. Like all childlike love. It was on Carol's 10th birthday that everything changed for the last time. We were celebrating at home, just the two of us, when someone rang the doorbell. Carol ran to answer it, thinking it was the delivery we were waiting for. I heard voices in the hallway. Carol talking excitedly with someone. A man's voice answering. A voice I didn't recognize, but that sounded familiar. Like a distant echo of something I knew. When I got to the door, I stopped breathing. There stood Josh. My son. 10 years old, tall for his age, with brown hair like mine, and bright eyes like Carol's. He held a letter in his hand. A letter I recognized immediately. Are you my mom? The words came out of a child's mouth, but they carried the weight of 10 years of separation. 10 years of doubts, questions, unexplainable emptiness. 10 years of a mother and son finally meeting. I couldn't answer with words. I just opened my arms. Josh ran into them as if he knew, instinctively, that that was where he belonged. The hug was long, silent, full of pent-up love. It was a lifetime's hug in a few seconds. Carol joined the hug. The three of us united, finally. 2 children who were siblings, a woman who was their mother. A family formed by destiny, separated by a lie, reunited by the truth. A family that had chosen to find each other despite everything. How did you find me? Uncle Adam gave me your letter. He said it was time for me to meet my real family. Adam had kept his promise. He had given me the choice I never had. The choice to meet my son, to explain the truth, to build a relationship. Even knowing that it could complicate his own life. Josh told me his version of the story. How he always knew he was adopted. How his adoptive parents were loving, but he felt something was missing. How Adam had appeared a few months ago and revealed the whole truth. My parents were sad, but they understood. They said they always knew this day would come. It was a mature, generous family, who put Josh's well-being above their own fears. Who understood that he needed to know his origins to be complete. That true love is not afraid of the truth. They want to meet you too, Josh said. They want to thank you for giving me life. The tears came again. But this time they were tears of gratitude. For Josh having been raised by such special people. For Carol having waited for me with patience. For Adam having had the courage to do the right thing, even if late. We spent the rest of the afternoon talking. Josh and Carol discovering they had similar tastes, similar favorite games. I watched my 2 children interacting as if they had grown up together. As if they had never been separated. Josh showed me photos of his adoptive family. Smiling parents, a caring sister, happy moments. I didn't feel jealousy or envy. I felt gratitude that he had been loved. That he had grown up safely. That he had the childhood I couldn't give him. Can I visit you sometimes? Whenever you want. And can Carol meet my adoptive parents? If she wants. Carol nodded enthusiastically. For her, more family meant more love. More people to care about her. More stories to hear, more affection to receive. When it got dark, Josh had to go home. His adoptive parents were waiting, concerned about this first meeting. He hugged me goodbye and whispered, "Thank you for letting me be born." His words broke and healed me at the same time. Josh understood, instinctively, the sacrifice it had been to lose him. But he also understood that I had made the right choice by leaving him where he was happy. Carol and I stayed up late, talking about the day. About what it would be like to have Josh in our lives. About how our family had suddenly grown. About how love could be complicated, but was always worth it. Are you still sad about Adam? Carol's question caught me off guard. I had been so focused on Josh that I had momentarily forgotten the pain related to Adam. But it was there, latent, waiting to be processed. A little. He did a good thing today. He did. Maybe he deserves to be forgiven. Carol's wisdom always surprised me. For her, things were simple. Adam had done something wrong, but he had also done something right. The wrong didn't cancel the right. The right didn't erase the wrong. Both could coexist. The following week, Josh came back. This time, he brought his adoptive parents. They were a middle-aged couple, elegant, kind. The woman hugged me, crying. The man shook my hand firmly, looking into my eyes. Thank you for giving us the most precious gift of our lives. Thank you for taking such good care of him. It was a strange, emotional meeting. 2 mothers sharing the same son. 2 parents recognizing that family is not just defined by blood. Divided love that multiplies, not diminishes. We talked for hours. They told me about Josh's childhood, I told them about my struggle to find him. Carol showed them her photos, Josh shared his memories. It was like stitching together pieces of a quilt, creating something bigger and more beautiful. We decided that Josh would spend some weekends with us. Not to replace his current family, but to complete his story. So he could know his origins, understand his characteristics, and build memories with me too. The first time Josh slept over was magical. Carol gave him half of her bed. They stayed up late, whispering, laughing, planning games. It was as if they were twins separated at birth, finally reunited. I watched them from the hallway, leaning against the door. My 2 children, so different but so alike. Carol, raised by me, full of determination and strength. Josh, raised by others, full of curiosity and kindness. Both carrying pieces of my soul. Adam never showed up again. But he left a message with Josh. He was happy that we had found each other. He hoped we would be happy. He wasn't asking for forgiveness, just understanding. It was his way of saying a final goodbye. I thought a lot about Adam in those days. About our real love built on lies. About his good intentions executed in the wrong way. About how complex people can cause both harm and healing at the same time. Carol asked me if I missed him. I answered honestly, I did. I missed the company, the dinners, the conversations. But I didn't miss the lie. I didn't miss the manipulation disguised as protection. Maybe one day you can be friends. Maybe. But not now. Not now. Carol understood that some wounds need time to heal. That forgiveness is a process, not an obligation. That I had the right to feel angry, even while recognizing that Adam had tried to do right in the end. The months flew by. Josh integrated into our routine naturally. He came on weekends, during holidays, and for school vacations. Carol gained a brother, Josh gained a sister, I gained my son back. It wasn't perfect. There was occasional jealousy, small conflicts, difficult adjustments. Josh sometimes missed his adoptive family. Carol sometimes wanted my exclusive attention. I sometimes felt guilty for not having raised Josh. But it was real. It was honest. It was built on true love, not on a beautiful lie. It was a chosen family, built, earned. It was stronger for having been tested, more precious for having been lost and found. On the second anniversary of our reunion, we had a party. Carol, Josh, his adoptive parents, some new friends. It was our first big celebration as an expanded family. A family that included everyone who loved the children. Josh blew out the candles with Carol. 2 siblings, 2 stories, 1 family. When I asked him what his wish was, he said, that we're always happy together. The wish came true. Not in the perfect way that happens in movies, but in the real way that happens in life. With ups and downs, with difficult moments and magical moments. With enough love to overcome any obstacle. Today, 5 years later, we are still an atypical but happy family. Carol is 13, Josh is 15. They both know the whole truth about their origins. They both chose to love me as their mother, regardless of biology. Josh calls his adoptive parents Dad and Mom, but calls me Mom Sarah. Carol calls me just Mom. Each one found their way of defining our relationship. Each one created their own way of loving me. Sometimes, we run into Adam on the street. We greet him politely, ask about his health and work. We're not friends, but we're not enemies. We are people who shared a complicated story and have learned to live with the consequences. Carol always asks me if I don't miss him. The answer has changed over time. In the beginning, I felt anger mixed with longing. Then, just longing. Today, I feel gratitude. Gratitude for him showing me that I deserved love. Gratitude for giving me the strength to fight. Gratitude for bringing Josh back. The love we felt for Adam was real, even if born from a lie. What we learned together was true, even if built on a false foundation. I can't call him a mistake, because he led me to my children. I can't call him a success, because it started with a lie. It's just part of my story. A painful, but necessary, part. Like prison, like the separation from Carol, like the discovery about Josh. All the pieces fit together to bring me to this point. To this imperfect, but genuine, life. My children sometimes ask about my plans for the future. If I plan to get married again, if I want more children, if I dream of different things. I answer that my future is them. That my family is complete. That my dreams come true every day when I wake up and see them. It's an honest, but not definitive, answer. Because I've learned that life changes constantly. That plans are made to be altered. That happiness comes in forms we never imagined. For now, I am a single mother of 2 children who love me. A woman who overcame prison, injustice, lies, and pain. A survivor who chose to build something beautiful with the broken pieces of her life. At night, when my children are asleep, I sometimes think about the man who bought my freedom for $300,000. I think about the secret he kept for years. I think about the imperfect love we lived. I think about how strange, complicated, and surprising life is. Adam saved me and hurt me. He freed me and imprisoned me. He loved me and he lied to me. He was a complex man in an impossible situation. He made wrong choices with right intentions. Just as we all do, in one way or another. Today I understand that there is no villain or hero in this story. There are only wounded people trying to do right. Adam with his guilt. Me with my pain. Carol with her need for family. Josh with his search for identity. We all did the best we could with what we had. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. But it was enough. It was real. It was human. And in the end, it was love. Complicated, hurt, true love. When Carol and Josh ask about the moral of our story, I answer that there is no simple moral. Life is not a fairy tale with a clear lesson at the end. It's a sequence of choices, consequences, adaptations, and new beginnings. The only truth I can teach is this: even when everything seems lost, there's always a chance to start over. Even when we have been betrayed, we can still trust. Even when our family falls apart, we can build a new one. Love always finds a way. It may not be the way we expected, it may not be the way we planned, but it finds it. And when it finds it, it's worth all the pain we went through to get to it. This is my story. The story of a woman who lost everything and found something different, but precious. Who was unjustly imprisoned and freed by love. Who had a son stolen and 2 children returned. Who loved a complex man and learned that forgiveness is a process, not an event. It's a true story, with multiple endings, with unanswered questions, with scars that still hurt. But it is my story. And today, finally, I am proud of it. I'm proud of having survived. I'm proud of having fought.
If this story kept you hooked until now, just imagine the next ones. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any. Give this one a like, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're listening from right now.
I'm proud of having chosen to love, despite everything. Because in the end, this is the only choice that really matters, to love or not to love. I chose to love. My children, my life, my future. Even my past, with all its pains and contradictions. I chose to love everything that brought me here. And today, when I look out the window and see Carol and Josh playing in the yard, I know I made the right choice. That all the pain was worth it. That all the suffering had a purpose. That every tear brought me closer to this simple, imperfect, real happiness. The man who bought my freedom for $300,000 gave me more than freedom. He gave me a second chance. He gave me my children back. He gave me the opportunity to discover who I really was beyond the pain. The secret he never revealed was revealed by time, by life, by necessity. And today, it's no longer a secret. It's just part of our story. A complicated part, but one that brought us here. To this moment of peace, of family, of earned love. This is my truth. My complete story. Without omissions, without lies, without forced endings. It's real as life is real. Imperfect as love is imperfect. Beautiful as only true things can be beautiful. And if someone asked me if I would change anything, if I could go back in time, I would say no. Because every mistake taught me something. Every pain strengthened me. Every loss prepared me to value what I have today. I am grateful. Grateful for the prison that taught me resilience. Grateful for Adam who brought me back to life. Grateful for Carol who taught me that family is built on love. Grateful for Josh who showed me that miracles happen. Grateful for this complex, painful, real life of mine. Grateful for having survived to tell it. Grateful for having learned that happiness is not the absence of pain, but the presence of love. And today, finally, I am home. At home with myself, with my children, with my story. The rest is the future. And the future, I have learned, always brings surprises. Some painful, others wonderful. But all necessary. All part of the journey. All welcome, because they brought me here. To this moment of gratitude, of peace, of real love. This is my story. Our story. The story of a family built on truth, strengthened by pain, united by love. An imperfect family, but a real one. A family that chose to stay together, despite everything. And today, when my children ask me if we are happy, I answer without hesitation, we are complete. Because happiness is momentary, but completeness is eternal. And we, finally, are complete.